And we're live.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Building Your Brand Within Your Community. I'm Dr. Alan Weinstein with my co-host Dr. Randi Ross. Today's episode is brought to you by the William David Company, Rethinking Small Business Marketing. Make sure you stop by www.williamdavidcompany.com and get your free virtual engagement rating. Also, Community Wellness Day. Every great opportunity begins with the first step. Take that step with Community Wellness Day. The system, the official marketing coaching program of healthcare professionals everywhere. And of course, the VIP app, the only application that allows you to bring your live hangouts just like this one to the smartphones, tablets, and desktops of all those people that have you in their circles. Our apps look so good, people are going to want to lick them. And Google in 10 minutes, a step-by-step guide for everything Google in your business. Simply visit tinyurl.com/Google in 10. Today's episode, 5 Keys to Business Success with business authority Mike Nannini. Mike Nannini, let me just take a minute and tell you a little bit about Mike, and then I'll turn the show over to Dr. Randi. Mike brings a unique blend of skills to his coaching practice. He is an accomplished executive manager with direct business oversight and management experience at a Fortune 100 company, in the U.S. Mike has led large-scale client acquisition and cross-selling efforts, multiple business integration responsibilities, broad hiring and employee development roles, compensation plan design, including goal setting and leadership of large nationwide sales organization. He's recently been elected to the first tee of Monmouth and Ocean County's Board of Directors, and he's the owner and lead coach at Focal Point Coaching, powered by Brian Tracy. Some of his accomplishments: 55% increase in key sales metrics in less than 1 year, $6 million recurring revenue increase achieved by reducing client attrition 17%, 67% employee attrition reduction by developing a strategy focused on communication, ongoing development, and growth. Am I only one hearing that noise, or others are hearing?
I'm sorry. When you pushed the app message through, my phone started buzzing.
Oh, okay, good deal. Well, we like to know that the apps were doing their job. He won the J.D. Power Award for highest client satisfaction audit score in 2012 across all surveyed industries. He increased client referrals 700%, that's 2 zeros after the 7, folks, leading to improved deepening and reduced attrition, responsibility for over 450 employees, and direct accountability for clients representing over $400 million in annual revenue, and develop asset revenue and needs-based client segmentation and treatment models for client base representing 1.1 million accounts. With that said, let me turn it over to Dr. Randi.
Well, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for being here. Well, that's some bio Mike's going to have to live up to in the next 30 minutes. But anyway, thanks again for joining us. Let us know where you're hanging out from. If you have a comments box below, if you're watching this in anything other than your VIP app mobile device. And I am hanging out from the beautiful Jersey Shore. Actually, Mike's in my neck of the woods, and Dr. Allen joins us from the Berkshire Mountains. Let me tell you a little bit about why I invited Mike to be a guest on our show. I met Mike a couple of months back at a networking event, and he gave a presentation, and it really struck me because in all my years I've had probably a dozen or so coaches, mentors, people that were helping me develop business in one way or another. And I kind of got numb to all that and hadn't had a coach in many years. And Mike just seemed very no-nonsense to me. And that's something that's a little unique. I often find that business coaches want to tell you what to do instead of finding out a little bit more about what you're looking to do and then provide you support to help you do that instead of trying to make you do something. And that's what I really liked about Mike. We've had a few meetings now. Everything really gets me to the next point, which is where we're trying to go. And he's got really valuable information, the kind of stuff that you could put to work immediately. So without any further ado, we're going to bring on Mike Nannini. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Hi, Randy. Thank you. Thank you both to you and Alan. I'm a big believer in under-promising and over-delivering, and you guys have made that impossible for me to this point, so thank you for that.
We always want to make you feel relaxed. We don't want you to
Yeah.
think there's any pressure here.
Right.
So, Mike, we're going to jump in, and I know our time today is about the 5 keys to success, and I mean, I have a few questions that I think probably tie into that, but tell us a little bit about what you think is a general successful model for people to follow when they're growing their business.
Well, I think it comes down to the biggest opportunity I see with the clients that I meet with is primarily around strategic planning and taking a step back from working in their business on a daily basis and thinking about where am I today, where do I want to go, and most importantly, how do I get there? It's really the biggest difference between large companies and small companies. Is large companies do an excellent job at the strategic planning side of things. They have a cycle that they start toward in the fourth quarter of every year, or late in the third quarter, and they really go through and say, okay, what is the next year going to bring? What types of resources do we need? And again, what is that very distinct and clear path that we need to take to get there? Where the small businesses have the big opportunity that the large companies more often than not fail at is the execution. In a big company, a lot of times the headwinds will come out throughout the course of the year. There's expense reductions. There's a change in management, a change in philosophy. There's market dynamics, things that prevent them from being really great at executing against their plans. And that's where a small business can really, really step up, because if they go through that planning process, it can guide everything that they do over the course of that year or even 3 years, and really help them get to that next level.
So, Mike, tell me what you think are probably, in your experience, the 3 most common obstacles that you see that prevent people from really, rolling along and achieving that success. I mean, you just talked about planning. I would assume I'm going to give you one of them, is that people don't really take the time to even create a plan, so then they really have nothing to execute. So that obviously is one of the barriers.
That's right. I think the planning is certainly a piece of it. It's one thing to be aware that you need to do it, and that is where a lot of small business owners miss the mark. But then once you know how to do it, what is the process that you're following to actually do it successfully? Again, it gets back to the execution of it and just how important that is. So I would say that's number 1. Number 2 is defining what your ideal client looks like. This is key because it helps guide your decisions about marketing, products, and service delivery. Every business has key clients, and I'll just note that I'm using clients. I know there's some doctors listening. You can use patients or customers. All of that is interchangeable. Clients, I just think, is a nice sounding generic way to talk about the people that we do business with, so that's the term that I use. But understanding exactly what the types of clients are that you're looking for, knowing where they are, how to market to them, and then bring them in to do business with you is probably the second thing that I would say most people miss. A lot of companies try to be everything to everyone, and it's especially critical that you have a niche, something that you're delivering that adds value to your ideal client, because otherwise you're just a generic, someone else that is generic and sort of vanilla, and it's very hard to have an impact on people and get their attention when that's what you're delivering. The third, I would say, is having a systematic way of tracking client satisfaction. Understanding what people like and don't like. Most importantly, knowing what areas of opportunity there are to improve in your company, and having the ability to make conscious decisions around the investment needed and the desire to change. What that means is you will never get to 100% client satisfaction. No company does that monitors it regularly. But if you get to 90, 92, 93%, that's pretty good. You know, if you're tracking it regularly in an institutionalized way, why that 7, 8, 10% of clients aren't satisfied. Once you have that, you can make a decision as to whether or not you want to make the investment in the resources or the technology, whatever it may be, to close that gap, or you might think that it's not worth it. And that is critical, because then you'll know, okay, these people aren't happy, or here's some opportunities for things that I can be doing better. And I've decided not to do it because even though it will increase my satisfaction 3 percentage points to 95%, it's going to cost me too much to do it, and it's just not worth it for me over the long term. So it's having that knowledge and making those trade-offs is important. Most of the companies that I talk to tell me they know if their clients are satisfied or not because they tell them. I know when my clients aren't happy because they come and complain. That's a very dangerous approach to understanding client satisfaction. A recent study showed that for every person that comes and tells you that they're not satisfied with your business, there's another 24 that also aren't satisfied that aren't telling you. So if you think about it in those terms, it creates a really big opportunity to keep the people that you have as your clients, patients, customers, and keep them, which is critical.
Dr. Allen, I know you're chomping at the bit to jump in here. This is your stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, Mike, I think those are some great points. I want you to talk about it for a minute, if you don't mind. A lot of people always think, under the heading of client satisfaction, that they're always looking for why is a client dissatisfied. But there's as much great information that you get from your clients when you find out they are satisfied that you could use going forward for marketing, for projections, for whatever it is. But people, when they hear client satisfaction, they only think of the negative. Uh-oh, I'm going to find out the things they don't like. So talk about that for a minute, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think that you're 100% right, Dr. Allen, and knowing why the clients that you have like you is critical, because it helps you understand, hey, these are the things that I'm doing well. You know, if you have a strategic plan and you're looking forward on your business and you're thinking about things like the client experience and each step of when clients do business with you, what their interaction is like, and then you have the client satisfaction to either confirm or deny that what you think is working is or isn't, then it really creates a powerful opportunity for you to take the things that you're doing well, see if you can do them better, and then also on the other side look at the negatives as we discussed before.
And Mike, you know, one of the things you talked about is just taking the time to make that plan. I actually think that a lot of small business owners, and you know, Dr. Allen and I work with a lot of health practitioners. I know that you actually coach some as well. And do you sometimes think that people don't really even know where to start? And part two to that question is, can we give them, you know, some tips on exactly, regardless of what kind of business they're in, how to actually get started, how to sit down and say, this is what I want to see for my business. Like, what you use the word metrics all the time. Like, what am I looking to look at so that I can plan to grow my business?
Yeah, so I think it's two things. One is just really sitting down with your staff or your key people, and just what I generally do with clients when the first step of strategic planning is really just sit down with an open slate and talk about, okay, where are we today? Because it's important to know where you start. And then say, okay, what do we want this to look like in a year from now? What does success look like for you in 12 months, in 36 months? And then you start to have those conversations, and then you can define what that successful business, how it runs out. And then from there, you can actually reverse engineer it and say, okay, this is where you want to get. How do you go ahead, and what are the steps that you need to take there? It varies by business. So for a medical practice to do that, they may want to grow their patients, they may want to add another location, whatever the case may be. A different type of business may have very, very different needs. A lot of it depends on the life stage of the business and whether they're a new business trying to grow and have more stability, whether they're sort of an intermediate term business that wants to go ahead and grow and become that large, more successful company, or if they're a well-established company that just wants to consider franchising or how they can broaden their reach and bring in more clients or customers or patients. So I think that just sitting down, you know, I'm sure many of the folks on this that are listening to this have read the E-Myth book by Michael Gerber, and one of the things that he talks about is the 3 I's of the entrepreneur. And whether you're a technician, whether you're a manager, or whether you're an entrepreneur, and the moral of the story, the short version, is that everyone plays all 3 of those roles in their business as business owners. You don't have a choice. But in practice, most people get too bogged down with the technician side of it, and that's actually, you know, what I like to call on the tools, so doing whatever it is their company does, and they don't spend enough time actually taking a step back and thinking about what do I actually want this company or this business to become, and how do I get there? So that's the first step. And then the second step is, Randy, you mentioned metrics and having data, and what are the right data points that you're using. And there's various different types of metrics. There's results indicators, there's performance indicators. Client satisfaction is more of a result indicator, but it can actually be a performance indicator as well. So, and that gets very detailed and very complex. But getting into it and thinking about, okay, what are the 3 to 7 things that I want to look at on a regular basis so that I have a very good feeling about the overall health of my business are really important to most small business owners, and frankly, something that not very many of them do.
One of the things in the E-Myth, in the book The E-Myth, which that's a great book to mention, is it also one of the things that you get out of the book is that not everyone's really meant to be in their own business and be an entrepreneur, and it sort of reveals that to you also. And I guess my question is, do you run into a client yourself where they hire you and you're sitting there going, wow, this person's does not have the fortitude or what is really needed to go where he wants to go? I mean, does that ever become the advice you give him? Hey, look, this may not be the right direction for you.
It does, and coming up with those sorts of folks for an exit strategy from their business is one of the things that I can help with, because you're right. Most people that own small businesses get into them because they're good at a skill. They're a mechanic, or they know how to fix an HVAC unit. They have training for that, and at some point they grow tired of working for someone else, and they think, I can start a business. All I have to do is answer the phone and go fix HVAC units. And in reality, we all know that that's not how it works. So yeah, you're right, Dr. Allen. That happens a lot, and that's that's a trap that a lot of folks fall into.
Yeah. Also, one other thing, how much when you sit down in the planning stages with everybody, do these two things come up? I call these the 2 E's. One is ego and one's emotion. And a lot of times from the people that I work with, those 2 big E's that come up are really tremendous roadblocks.
Absolutely. Ego is by far the #1 obstacle that I bump up against. People generally don't think that they need help. They think that they have it all covered. A good analogy that I like to use, and I generally don't use this one-on-one with folks because it can come off as sort of confrontational, but this is a good forum to discuss it, is your business a tree full of monkeys? I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but think about a tree full of monkeys just visually, what it would look like. Everybody that's looking down at the top of the tree, which would be the owners and the bosses, all they see is smiling faces. Everybody that's looking up, what do they see? They see monkey butts. So, it's an interesting way to sort of think about it and challenge yourself. And the reality is, at the end of the day, very, very few small companies have this all figured out. And I'm not here to say that I have the answer to everything. I understand how a business should run. I don't go in and work with clients and tell them what they should do. For example, if I work with a chiropractor, I don't tell him how to do chiropractic adjustments. That's not what I do. What I do is help him with his patients and how to run his or her business and make it better. So the big difference there. And emotion, so ego is the biggest obstacle. Emotion is my biggest advocate, because when people can tell me what their emotions are, when I talk with them about, what does success look like, and then the next question is, okay, well, what would it mean to you to reach that level of success? That's when you get into the emotion. Oh, I would be able to take my family on vacation. I'd be able to put my kids in private school. I'd be able to pay off my debt. I'd be able to not work, 90 hours a week. That sort of an emotional trigger is very, very powerful.
And Mike, I want you to also share something. This might be slightly off the topic that we're on, but something that you made me do, and it's the frog story, and it addresses those things that for whatever reason you just hate doing, you should be doing, but you don't do, and you procrastinate, and they never get done. And you told me a very interesting story as a way to think about getting the things done in your business that you dislike the most.
Yeah, it's called Eat That Frog, and Focal Point is built on the foundation of Brian Tracy. If anyone is familiar with him, he's written several books. He's a worldwide speaker, author, coach, and mentor to executives around the globe. And one of his books is entitled just just what you said, Dr. Randy. It's eat that frog. And the premise of it is, think about the things that you like to do the least. For some people, it might be responding to email. For some, it might be making return calls. It might be doing your payroll, whatever the case may be. And the idea behind it is to make that the first thing that you do each morning. Because mentally, in some ways, you trick yourself throughout the course of the day. People generally, for the most part, are procrastinators. So when they think about, hey, this is my least favorite task today, it's natural to put it off. And then maybe they'll put it off for later in the day. Maybe they'll put it off to where they don't even accomplish it. That happens a lot, where they'll just push it to the next day, and then it becomes 3-4 days later, and they still haven't done it. So eat that frog is just do the things that you like the least first, get them out of the way, and more often than not, that'll give you a great feeling of accomplishment. And I know I do it too. And when I take that approach, I always feel when I'm done like, nah, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I'm glad that that's over now. Let's get on and with the rest of the day and make things happen.
And I think also that doing the thing first in the day really changes not only your feelings about it, but it helps you develop a pattern where it becomes a habit. And it's then when you develop that kind of habit, the results of doing something you dislike that much, it really becomes so much easier to do because now it's a habit and it's your daily activity. It's like exercise. Some people hate exercise, but if you get through it the first thing in the morning and you start doing it every day, eventually you look in the mirror and you go, hey, I'm getting some out of this. This is really pretty good.
That's exactly right. Going to the gym is a great example of doing the thing you like least first.
Recently there was, I don't remember his name, it escapes me, but there was a YouTube video that went around about a general that gave a commencement speech, and one of the things that he said was, make your bed every day. And he said, if you never do anything else productive throughout the day, at least when you walk in your room at night, you look at that bed and you say, okay, at least I made my bed. And you got something done in a non-productive day. And, of course, I've tried to instill that in my 14-year-old daughter, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But it's almost like that same kind of concept, right, Mike? Like, because who likes to make their bed? Do it and feel like, okay, this is a good start for the day. I did something good.
That's right, and it's more than just accomplishing the task. It changes your mindset to some extent. When you do things that you don't like to do and you get them out of the way early, it's a sense of accomplishment, and it makes you feel more positive about the rest of the day and your outlook for what's going to happen.
Yeah, I remember watching a speaker one time talking about getting things done, and one of the things that he suggested was a lot of us make a list, or today we do it on a computer, but he said instead of just like, crossing it off or making a check mark, his big thing for a mental accomplishment was put a line through it and in big bold letters write done over that task. That extra kind of like effort that you put in to write the word done supposedly does something to you mentally that really elevates you and gets you to continue to move forward.
Yeah, and I think that that's a great point, because when we think about what are the habits of people that are highly successful, one of the things that comes up all the time is that they work from a list. They have a list of things that they need to accomplish and they stick to it. So yeah, taking those things on that list that you don't want to do and writing done through them, it's a great trick.
So, Mike, I know we were talking about the 5 keys, and I'm sure that we've touched on a few of them, but what have we left out?
I think that one of the things is building relationships and how critical that is to your success. It's cliche, but it's true, because people want to do business with people that they like. If you're the only game in town, people will come to you regardless, but that's not a sound long-term strategy. So if you think about it from the standpoint of understanding who your ideal clients are, what they look for, and where to find them, and how the best way to build relationships with them will help lead to even greater success. I think the other thing is your team. Do you have the right people around you? If you have employees that are part of your team, they are more often than not the face of your business to your customers, your clients. They're the first people that folks will see when they call you or when they walk in through your door if you have a brick and mortar store. And so making sure that you have the right people in the right roles every day will certainly make your life easier. A lot of people that I talk to say, when I get into the conversation around their staff, they say, oh, well, this employee, they're not doing the job that I need them to do, but they've been here with me for 20 years. So, I'm not comfortable, making a change or asking them to do something different. And that's fine. I would never suggest that somebody does something that they're not comfortable with, especially when it comes to people that they've had a long-term relationship with. But at the same time, understanding what that means to your business and the impact of it, more often than not, the scope of having that type of a person isn't really understood by a business owner. So I would add those two things, and just sales. It's funny, I talk to people all the time, and rarely do they say, I need help with sales, I'm not good at it. More often than not, they say, oh, I'm great at sales. I have a company, I know how to talk about it. And really, business development in its simplest form is sales, right? Are you asking the right questions? Frankly, are you asking any questions? I talk to a lot of people that tell me that they're great at sales, and all they want to do is tell me about their company and how wonderful it is. Well, that's not really selling. How well are you asking questions? How well are you listening? Are you uncovering needs and positioning your products or services to fit those needs? Those fundamental principles apply no matter what business you're in. It's about having a system or process, being comfortable with it, and delivering it the same way every single time.
Wow, Dr. Allen, doesn't it sound like Mike's been a fly on the wall in many of our conversations?
Yeah, absolutely. I want Mike to talk about one thing. This is the test if he's really been a fly on the wall. I'm kidding. I want you to talk about dealing with people in coaching, because that basically is really what your business is now. Talk about how people, what role failure plays in the success of the clients that you get, and how can people listening to this better understand the importance of that?
Well, the only people that aren't failing are the people that aren't trying new things. The only way that you can grow your business, or one of the key ways you can grow your business and really start to think about, I'm not talking about saying, hey, I'm doing X in revenue now, I want to do 10% better. I'm talking about, I'm doing X in revenue, I want to do 10 times as much. There's only a few ways that you can do that. One of them is trying new things, whether it's adding more locations, adding more products. Failure is, I read something the other day, it was interesting. It said there really is no such thing as failure. It's just a matter of what you're learning as you go on, as a company, as a leader, as a mentor, as a manager. So failure is critical. You can't be afraid of failure, because then you become paralyzed and you're not able to do anything. And the old saying, evolve or die. So there's a long list of companies, and look, some of the most well-known companies in the world. Look at McDonald's, for example. They have failed to evolve to what people in this culture want today. So other companies like Chipotle and Panera are really taking market share away from them in a huge, huge way, to the point to where McDonald's has a serious problem on its hand, because they haven't been able to come up with a good, healthy alternative to their current menu. And people, just don't go to McDonald's and eat the way that they did 15 years ago. So their inability to successfully figure out new things has really hindered them and gotten them into a pretty precarious position to a large extent. So, the only way that they can avoid that, and then small companies can avoid it, is to keep trying new things. And you're going to have some failures. You learn from them, and you'll have some successes. And there's really only one way to do it, and that's a great way.
Yeah. One last thing I want to say. You said McDonald's, and I do follow that, and I follow particularly their stock market report when they announce earnings, because you're right. Then not only have they not figured out a way to get people to come back, but they haven't even figured out a way now, because they waited so long to get people to even trust them. So no matter what they say, no one's even really believing any longer what they're claiming or the direction they believe they're going in. So they failed on a lot of different fronts, which is why they're in such rough shape at this point.
Absolutely, and Sears is another example. And they're in the similar category as McDonald's, because at this point, those two companies are basically large real estate companies.
Yep.
And if they didn't own the real estate where their stores are, they'd be even in more trouble. Sears specifically, and you can see Sears is even leasing out space in their stores to other other clothing company, other businesses, which is very, very interesting. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, you're right. Those two companies are very far behind, and they've got a tough road to hoe ahead.
Yep.
We have someone that's been waiting in the room. We're going to see. We have Christine here. If she wanted to maybe ask Mike a question, let's see if she's here. Christine, are you with us? No, she's gone. Okay. Well, I have a question. Well, actually, not necessarily a question. I wanted to agree with Mike. And as everyone knows who follows us here, I call myself a relationship marketing authority. And whether that's you're hosting a community wellness day, that we take you through that process and hold your hand and have you meet and engage with more people in your community within a couple of months than you could probably do in 10 years, or where we talk about your virtual engagement or your virtual relationship marketing, making sure that that's correct. But the most important thing that I think or one of the most important things that Mike said that really resonated to me was when he said, people want to do business with people they like, and I'm going to take that a step further and say people also want to do business with people they trust. And the only way to get people really to trust you is to take the time to spend time with them, as Mike said, and not just talk at them. That's so important. I mean, especially with Community Wellness Day, when we train people to go out and meet with different people in their community, whether it's politicians or business leaders or government agencies. And I always tell them, don't go out and just be ready to talk at people and tell them your agenda. You have to listen, and this is what Mike was reflecting, so I'm just kind of mirroring this. When you really listen to people, what you find is you're going to find where their problems are. When you know where their problems are, their challenges, you are then going to be able to use your tools and your knowledge and your expertise to provide a solution. But more times than not, if you're not really listening, remember God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You're supposed to listen twice as much as you talk. That you're going to miss so many opportunities. I call it, when you listen, you find out where you can slot yourself in. So I think that is, bears repeating, and it's something that a lot of small business owners don't necessarily understand, to get out there and not just be prepared to talk at someone, to really be prepared to listen and find out where that spot is, that sweet spot for you. So I know I just kind of took your words and twisted them a little, Mike, but I think that's really important.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. A simple way to think about this is most people understand the 80-20 rule, where 20% of their revenues 80% of their revenues come from 20% of their customers, that top 20% rule. You can use that same number and flip that to a sales conversation. Really, in any sort of a sales or a prospecting conversation, you should be talking 20% of the time and listening 80% of the time. And if you do that, you'll uncover those needs, those opportunities to, as you said, Dr. Randi, slot yourself in.
Well, we want to thank Mike for being here today. Always great words of wisdom. Mike is offering to anyone listening a complimentary 1-hour coaching session, and you can either call him up at 888-305-3852, or you can email him at M as in Mary, N as in Nancy, ANNINI, it's all N's, Mike Nannini, all N's, at focalpointcoaching.com. If you can't find it, you could always just respond here, click on our link, send us a message, and we'll make sure to get you connected with Mike. And if you're really, if you're new in business, great to have someone to guide you, and even for us old-timers like myself, it's good to always have a fresh pair of ears and eyes at what you're doing and kind of get you pointed back in the direction. And Mike, I'm going to just give you a kind of last word here. Anything that you want to say to tie us up before I turn it back to Dr. Allen?
No, I think if you haven't read the E-Myth, you should, and think about those 3 roles, entrepreneur, technician, and manager, and how much time you're spending in each of them, because that is a very eye-opening way to think about how they're spending their time for virtually every small business owner. that I talk to. So I'll close with that. Dr. Randi, thank you. Dr. Allen, thank you for this opportunity. I think this has been great. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for being here, and we're going to toss it back to Dr. Allen to close us out.
You've been listening to Building Your Brand Within Your Community. Today's episode was brought to you by, there we go, the William David Company, Rethinking Small Business Marketing. Make sure you go to www.williamdavidcompany.com and take your free virtual engagement rating. Also, Community Wellness Day. Every great opportunity begins with the first step. Take that step with Community Wellness Day. The System, the official marketing coaching program for healthcare professionals everywhere. The VIP app, the only application that allows you to bring your live hangouts just like this one to the smartphones, tablets, and desktop of all people that have you in their circles. And of course, Google in 10 minutes, a step-by-step guide for all things Google for your business. On behalf of myself, Dr. Alan Weinstein, my co-host, Dr. Randi Ross, and of course Mike Nannini, we want to thank you for stopping by today, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next week.